absolutely amazing.
Coming up.
You can gather that this review is probably going to go quite well for this game. Here's a spoiler warning for you. If you don't want to know what happens or some of the big points in Uncharted 4, then what the hell are you doing? Unless you don't mind spoilers, then fine, stick around. But if you finish the game and played this amazing series, you're on board. Awesome. Let's get to it. So Uncharted 4, all I can say is it's an absolute masterpiece. It is a phenomenal game. Uncharted 4 is quite simply the culmination of what you've always wanted this series and how you wanted this series to end. It's been known for a long time that this is going to be the last Uncharted. If there happened to be another one, which I'll get to in a sec, I can only see one way where they could do that. It doesn't leave you shortchanged, I don't believe. I think it gives you everything you possibly want. It gives you your humour. It gives you your fantastic story between the characters. It gives you a very interesting story for why they're doing what they're doing. It also gives you interesting stories regarding the people involved and why they're doing what they're doing. So when it comes to Avery and Thomas too, and all of these other characters and famous like pirates, and it gives you this story that something was going on between them, and you just give that impression that you actually become more interested. You become as interested as what clearly Nathan Drake and his brother Sam and everybody else who's involved actually does. And I think that's a credit to how this game and how the story has been written. It makes you feel pretty involved with them, and you are very much a part of the story. You are the other Drake sort of thing that's just never mentioned, but you're always around the brothers as this is happening. So the story obviously revolves around the fact that Nate has a brother, Sam, who has never been mentioned. And I know one thing before I heard, and when I heard that they were doing this and by bringing in his brother, would be kind of like, oh, if they run out of a story of how to really get him to be going on these adventures again, and they just kind of say, oh, there's a brother, here you go, you actually had a brother all along. For me, it doesn't feel like that. It actually feels as though that it's been really, really well written in the fact that they go back to when they're kids and go back to when they're in prison and how you actually came to believe that Sam wasn't around. And they explain it properly, that it always seems to fit. And I think the credit goes to not only for the fact of the writing, but you can get this sense with Drake, or I say the Drakes, when you've got Nate and you've got Sam, played by Nolan North and by Troy Baker, who both know how to carry stories. They really do. They've been doing this long enough. Nolan North has been Nathan Drake for however many years that Uncharted's around. You've got Troy Baker, who was obviously in The Last of Us, and they know what they're going to put out there. And the great thing I love about it is the fact that these two genuinely feel as though they've got some chemistry. And it's not just because they're doing it as a game. They're literally doing it because you give that feeling as though that they work so well together that they could easily pass it off as though that's Sam's Nate's older brother. And it's great to see how the chemistry and how the connection and how these two were born to be these two. They changed their names to become these two. This is what they always saw for each other. They thought, this is where we want to go. But you also have returning characters. You have Elena, you have Sully. And what I quite like about how they put these two in here is Sully isn't as involved in this as what he has been in previous games, but he has his moments, which is great. And I think that's a good way to have a character like Sully. I was very much under the impression that possibly this might be the game where maybe they kill him to maybe land the fact that this is going to be the last one. But he's in it few and far between, and he's thrown in at the right points, and I like that. I like the fact that he's in there. He has his little his quips. He clearly looks at Nate as a son. Sam, he has his doubts about, but you can see he obviously warms to him towards the end. And Elena is the one is everything's held from. Nate doesn't want her to know that he's gone off to be gone on another adventure. He's broken his promise. He's afraid of what she'll think. But what I like about the Elena factor is she always gives this impression that she knows deep down what Nate wants. When you're playing the scene at the beginning where you see them living their normal life and you have them trying to experience what they try and do in a normal life, which is this day-to-day rigmarole of going to work, you come home, you talk about your day, you play a bit of PlayStation, which I absolutely love that part. Easter egg out there. If Naughty Dog just threw that in there, and I was just like, I literally thought, if they make me play Crash Bandicoot now, I am not going to even play the rest of the game. I'll just sit. Can I just play that over and over? But with regarding Elena, what I liked about it is the fact that when she returns back, she's missed it just as much as what Nate has, and she's just as evolved as he is, which is she wants to join in on the adventure. She's not against it. She's just more willing to accept that this shouldn't be their life all the time. But what is great afterwards, the fact that right at the end, obviously with the buying of the company and of the company which Nate works for, is a great way of like kind of coming full circles. The fact that she wants to be in on adventures, obviously as long as they're legal, that she'll kind of play along, and Nate wants that as well, which is a great way to look at it. One thing which makes this game stand out so well is the use of how much you go around the globe. Admittedly, through the power of using the PS4's obviously engine and everything in there, and the ability to have such scape and scale and just this vision of what this world is, that you are able to see quite simply the most beautiful game I think has ever been produced. There are some parts I genuinely didn't move. I stopped still, right thumb on the stick, and just started panning round. And I bet you there's one or two people that have done that as well. You just sit there and then just I completely admire everything. One of the best parts was the part where you finally get to Libertalia, and yes, you're walking through a complete wreck of what this colony was, but it's so much detail. They could have had one house over there and a little shack over there, and that's it, and they would have been made to believe it. But no, they designed towns to be wreckages, and Naughty Dog do that so well. The Last of Us created cities which looked as though that had been completely abandoned and been run down and completely forgotten about. And this does this, and that's what they do so well, and that's what this produces. And I literally sat there looking at, thinking I could spend all day just exploring these ruins. But by playing in this world, you sit and you admire how much have been put in. This is the send off that the game series wanted, because Naughty Dog knew quite possibly that this is going to be their last time creating an Uncharted game. That they wanted you to have the best feel, the best looking, the best playing, the best story with the best characters. Because this series is, for me, this for everything. This is you playing a movie. You are in a movie, going along the ride with every one of these characters, feeling what they feel, catching your breath at the time when, like, Nate suddenly has the floor crumple from underneath him, or he's going falling from a great height. You never know what this game's going to throw at you next. And what encompasses the fact that you can go along on this adventure is everything. It's the effects, it's the sound, it's the characters. The music is brilliant. It works brilliantly well. The score is brilliant. I actually say to you, go and listen to it if you can. You can picture what's happening, whether it's a chase out of the prison, whether it's a fighting part where you're bombarded with lots of shoreline soldiers over and over. Admittedly, yes, the two bad guys, Nadine and Rafe, are in here, which I felt as though for me they were just they were just there. They're there to serve a purpose, but ultimately the story was always about Sam and about his brother. They always seemed to know where they were. Admittedly, the point where Sam's captured and he obviously must be leading them there, but the bad guys always seem to know where to turn up. And I know Rafe kind of like is alluded to the fact that he knows how to do this, but they always kind of give the impression that Rafe was nowhere near as good as Nathan Drake or as good as Sam. So it's like kind of like, well, why was he always catching up to you guys so quick? But fair enough, to serve point with it. It's my smallest gripe in the world. It's the only one that I'm going to have with it, and that's it. That's the only thing that I've got. But they have to serve a purpose. You've got to fight someone, so fair enough for them two to be in it. Completely fine with that. So when you come to the end of the game, things are wrapped up in a nice way. Sam is saved by Nate on the boat on Avery's ship, which is obviously laden with booby traps and is blowing up around them. You fight Rafe in a pretty interesting way to conclude it in a sword fight, but I actually quite liked it. But it plays in a great way the fact that it didn't need like a huge like final boss, which when you compare it to like Uncharted 2, when you're fighting in Shambhala, it's like that fight I can remember kind of got a little bit frustrating sometimes with the fact that you have to shoot like the pods which it would explode if, and I died several times. I know Uncharted 3 got a little bit of criticism for not really having a proper like final boss sort of thing, but I don't think these games need it. They present themselves so well to be the whole adventure is just the big picture, and you don't need to justify it like an old fashioned game of saying here's a boss, bit of story, here's a boss, ending. It's just it wraps itself up in the right way. Now, one of my things which I mentioned before, which is alluding to if they're going to do any more Uncharted games, for me the only way they're ever going to do it, well, the only way they're ever going to do it is if they decide to do prequels, which I think wouldn't really fly. It'd just be kind of just saying we need to string this out as long as we can. So the only viable way that you could possibly do it is if you go on an adventure with Sam, goes off with Sully, who clearly they've got some form of relationship to kind of build. So it's a good avenue to say if we are going to do another one, that's the route we'll do it. For me, the way that it ends is a perfect ending, which is Nate doesn't want his daughter to really know exactly what they've done, but she clearly gets to an age to a point where she is just a little young Nate, to the point where they just go, okay, let's tell you the truth. And it's a nice way of looking at it, because ultimately I was quite worried that someone possibly would have died in this. So in conclusion, for what to say about this, you guys will probably know it's been getting rave reviews everywhere. In fact, I don't think I've heard a bad thing said about it. For people to have any gripes about it, I can imagine them being very small ones, like with mine. But for me, this is the greatest gaming series ever. I said it. It is. I'd love for people to tell me if they can think of something better. But on the scale of what it is, there's nothing touches it. There is absolutely nothing in the world that touches it. Nothing makes you feel like you're playing a movie more than these games. You're hooked and you can't wait to see how it ends, and you just, when it does, you do feel a little sad that you're not going to see a game like this with these characters again. The only thing I can hope for is and it probably will happen, is there is a Last of Us 2, because if that series builds upon the start of what that had, that will match the Uncharted series. So what did you guys think? I'd like to know your favourite part. So put down below in the comments which you feel as though was the best part of the game. What was your favourite part of the series? Hit me up on Twitter. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Leave a like and subscribe. Comment below, and I will speak to you guys soon.